Now, keyboards on a computer system wear out eventually over time. They get a lot of use. People pound on them all day typing. They get mad and they smack the keys on occasion. Keyboards take a lot of abuse, and as such, as a PC technician, you're going to need to replace them from time to time. Now, on a desktop system, that's pretty easy, right? You go down, you buy a new keyboard, you unplug the old one, you plug the new one in, and you're ready to go. On a notebook system, however, it's a little bit more complex. In this lesson, we're going to talk about how to replace the keyboard on a notebook. Let's take a look. Remember that notebooks are very proprietary. Check your documentation and find out the proper procedure. On this particular notebook system, the screws that I need to remove in order to change the keyboard are labeled on the back with the letter K. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these screws. Now, just because this particular notebook system has the right screws marked with the letter K, don't assume that all notebook systems do. Some will, some won't. Again, check your documentation to find out which screws you have to remove in order to get the keyboard off. So that screws out, that screws out, that screw's loose, but I can't quite get at it. We'll have to tip it over. And this screws out. Those are all the screws labeled with a K. At this point, turn the system over. Open up the lid. Now I need to remove the keyboard. All the screws that are holding it in place are now out. So I just kind of gently lift up on the keyboard, get my hands underneath it, and slide it off there. Then, as you can see right here, it's still connected to the main board with a keyboard cable. Just grab a hold of that and gently remove the plug. And there's my notebook system keyboard assembly. I'm going to take this one away. I'll bring in my new keyboard. And first, go down here and attach it to the motherboard. The quarters are very tight and cramped down here. I have to get down really close. Make sure it's seated all the way. Slide the keyboard into its slot. Okay, we're ready to go on this end. I'm going to close the lid to hold the keyboard in place while I turn the system over. And then reinsert all of the screws and tighten them down so the keyboard stays where it's supposed to be. And we're ready to go. Now at this point, I would want to fire up the system, power the system on, and then test to make sure that the BIOS recognizes the keyboard and that I can use it and that it works properly. Now, keyboards are relatively simple devices. If for some reason the BIOS doesn't recognize the keyboard or the keyboard doesn't work, the most likely cause is that you didn't get the plug seated all the way down, and so some of the connectors aren't making contact. Other than that, the keyboard might be bad. They're relatively simple. Understand, however, that the keyboard that we replaced here is unique to this particular notebook system. If you work on different notebooks from different manufacturers, the way the keyboard's implemented, how it's connected to the motherboard, can vary greatly. Notebooks aren't nearly as standardized as PC desktop systems that we're used to working on. In this lesson, we talked about how to replace the keyboard in a notebook system. We accessed the bottom panel, removed the screws, replaced the keyboard, plugged it back in, and tested it in the BIOS.